Ashe greetings, grand rising, a grand day, and peace and goodwill to you all once again, my fellow natural native earthly humans. Yes, you, the earth's organic humans and soulful humans. You, my fellow humans with soul the world over. Yes, you don't know that I am yours truly, I, the mystic philosopher. And many thanks for stopping by and giving of your time to listen to another perspective with yours truly, I, the mystic philosopher. And welcome to this part 26. And this is the continuation of the great big black and white lie exposed. Now, if by chance you have not yet watched part 1 through to part 25 in this series, and hopefully in that consecutive order, I ask that you please do so before watching this part 26, or that you please do so at your most earliest convenience. I honestly do think and believe that if at all you are seriously interested in getting the facts and the most truthful understanding, and overstanding of what I'm talking about in this series, I highly recommend that you go back and watch from part 1 and follow through to the end. Now, for those of you who have been following this series thus far, or might have been listening to me speak on this topic elsewhere, and over the years, you will have noticed and no doubt came to the right conclusion that I, the mystic philosopher, have made it my personal mission to expose this lie, and by extension expose these lies. Yes, the great big black and white lie. And to have most of you, if not all of you, my people, and others to whom it may concern, come to the knowledge of the proven truth, and to be enlightened to the destructive effects that this lie, and by extension these lies, have had and are having on every aspect of our daily lives. And having come to the knowledge and the proven truth, hopefully you all will begin to redeem yourselves from the curses of being ignorant to this lie, and by extension the curses of being ignorant to these lies. Hopefully you will then begin to emancipate yourselves from both the mental, spiritual, the psychological, and physical slavery that this lie, and by extension these lies, have cast upon you. Now, for your information, my people, as the late Robert Nesta Marley in one of his songs titled Redemption Song, or Redemption Song, said, and I quote, "Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery, for none but ourselves can free our minds," unquote. Let me also hasten to point out a correction and a fact that I was made aware of in episode 24 on my YouTube channel by one of you, my patient and astute listeners. Yes, one of you, my analytical thinkers and truth seekers, who goes by the angle Karim Demand. He pointed out to me, and I quote, "Yes, my brother, that's a good quote, my friend, but it is not Robert Bob Marley. That quote was taken from the written documents of Marcus Garvey," unquote. The truth be told, I was completely unaware of that fact. And as the saying goes, one hand wash the other. We are here to edify each other, and none of us knows it all. And I too do believe that credit must be given where credit is due, just as how respect must be given when and where respect is due. So enough respect, brother, and thanks for the enlightenment. And I'm sure others who did not know will be appreciative of the enlightenment themselves. So big up yourself. From this quote, emancipate yourselves from mental slavery, for none but ourselves can free our minds. We must logically interpret, understand, and overstand, and sensibly agree that no one can save or deliver us, and no one is coming to save or to deliver us from whatever situation we may find ourselves in this reality. No religion, no politician, no God, no Lord, no Allah, no Yahweh, no Messiah, no Christ, you name it or you name them. The fact is that it is all up to us to individually and collectively save and deliver ourselves. And how do we do that? Some of you might be asking. It is by gaining the required knowledge, by becoming enlightened, by getting out of darkness, meaning getting out of blackness. Another word for ignorance, getting out of ignorance. For as it has been written thousands of years ago, my people, both written and said by wise men of old and wise women of old, the sages, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, and my people perish for lack of knowledge. My people are perishing today. Why? Because lack of knowledge. And thus you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Now, please let me forewarn you, all my faithful listeners and watchers and followers, that this part 26, this episode 26, is going to be lengthier than usual. And that is because of the amount of points I intend on covering and explaining. And I just want to do it in this one video recording. And so again, I ask for your patience and your understanding, and overstanding. And this 25-26 is also leviticated to my response to a comment on my YouTube channel, and the said aforementioned episode 24 from another of you, my patient and astute listeners, and one of you, my analytical thinkers and truth seekers, who goes by the angle Lord Van Manor 6915. I ask that you, all my listeners, please read his comments for yourself on my YouTube channel called The Mystic Philosopher. You, Sir Lord Manor 6915 said, and I quote, "You contradicted yourself." Yeah, let me repeat that. And I quote, "You contradicted yourself. Full stop. Black, milas, mix of coloreds are synonyms." Unquote. I also took note that you, sir, wrote the word synonyms in all caps, evidently to grab my attention and also to emphasize the point that you are very confident that you are correct. However, I, the mystic philosopher, straight up disagree with this your statement that the word black, the word milas, the term or the phrase mix of color, and the word coloreds are synonyms. And thus, from your perspective, I have contradicted myself. I disagree. But I shall explain why I disagree with your statement in great details. So please be very attentive to this my response. Now, though you did not, though you did not point out exactly where in my presentation that from your perspective and interpretation I have contradicted myself, but based on your comments, and again I quote, you contradicted yourself. Black, milas, mix of color, colors are synonyms, unquote. I think that you are referring to my objective number 8 in particular, wherein I say, and I quote, to show and prove to you all, or rather to show and prove to you that this, our current existence upon this planet, is a game, and one in which we melanin / carbon skin complexion people are being played like pawns on a chessboard. It is a game that is heavily stacked against us, and that in order to change the game in our favor, we have to change the name black and all its synonyms and euphemisms as well, unquote. And so I guess when I use the phrase we melanin / carbon skin complexion people, you are hearing and interpreting me saying we melanin people. And from your perspective and in your opinion, your mental and rational calculation and understanding, the word melanin is synonymous to the word black. Synonymous meaning they can be accurately used interchangeably. Therefore, by me saying we melanins / carbon skin complexion people, I am literally or otherwise still saying we black people. If that is the case, if that is your interpretation, you are also wrong, and I shall explain that in much detail shortly. Secondly, when you hear me say we carbon skin complexion people, you are also hearing and interpreting me saying we black people. And why? Maybe it's because the color of charcoal or carbon is described or defined as black. And to use it in a sentence while referring to a race of people is to call or describe them as black. If that is the case, then again you are wrong. This too I shall explain in much detail shortly, right here in this video. And I can understand, and understand why you would or why you may have come or came to that conclusion or to those conclusions. One possible reason that I can think of is that you might have assumed that I am not one who pay close enough attention, if at all, any attention to details, and I may just speak without or before careful and thoughtful deliberation. Please let me remind you of a few facts that I ask that you search and research, and please bear them in mind at all times throughout this, my response, and also throughout the rest of this series and possible throughout the rest of your life. Fact number 1. The meaning and definitions of the word synonym according to the English or the British language. Let me give you the meaning and definition according to the British and English language of the word synonym. According to the Winston Canadian Dictionary for schools, the word synonym is defined as, and I quote, a word that have the same or nearly the same meaning as another. And it gives an example. Example as keen is a synonym. Keen, K-E-E-N, is a synonym for sharp. It's H-A-R-P. Unquote. Let me give you the definition of synonyms from more than one dictionary. The second dictionary refers an online Google search dictionary. And the word synonym both mean and is defined as, again I quote, a word or a phrase that means exactly or nearly the same as another word or phrase in the same language. And it gives an example. For example, shut, S-H-U-T, is a synonym of close. Shut the door, close the door, unquote. Now, according to the Merriam-Webster's dictionary online, the word synonym is defined as, and I quote, a synonym is a word or expression that has the same or nearly the same meaning as another word in the same language, unquote. So my, the mystic philosopher's interpretation of these three English dictionaries definitions is that a synonym in the English language has to be two words or two phrases from the same English language that have the same exact meaning or nearly the same exact meaning. Has the same meaning or nearly the same exact meaning. The point that I ask that you please bear in mind here is the fact that the two words or the two phrases have to be from the same language, which in this case is the English language, in order for it to be considered synonyms. In other words, and if my interpretation is correct, and please enlighten me if you think or can prove that my interpretation is wrong, it means that you cannot use a word from another language such as French, Hebrew, Greek, Arabic, Bantu, you name it, along with an English word and call them synonyms, but more on that later. Fact number two that I ask that you please consider and bear in mind is that the greatest, the deadliest, the most powerful and the most effective and long-lasting form of colonization is not physical or territorial colonization, but it is mental colonization. And for your information, mental colonization is done through the use of the thing called language. And the mere fact that we have to be communicating using the language of our colonizers and our oppressors is evidence that we are still their captives. We speak their language, we dream in their language, we make love and cohabit in their language, we worship in their language, we study in their language, we do business in their language, we worship them and their gods in their language, we are governed and controlled in their language. We even try to communicate with our own source and most honorable ancestors in their language. We are all mentally, spiritually, and otherwise colonized, victimized, subjected, subjugated, humiliated, confused, and enslaved, you name it, to some greater or lesser degree by the owners of the language and languages that we speak and depend on to communicate with each other. Now, fact number three is this. It is that this is not my language or my mother tongue, and nor is it or was it the language of my most honorable ancestors, but it is the language and the words of the black Caucasians. Yes, the imperialist invaders, the colonizers, the human traffickers, oppressors and enslavers, the evil ones, and their heirs and successors that still govern and control us today, aka the British, the English language. Fact number four. Now, with the exception of the fact that my most honorable ancestors' language and mother tongue is inherently imprinted and genetically embedded and thus lay dormant in my subconscious mind and in my DNA, with that exception, I do not have a fully active language and I do not know any of my ancestors' language and mother tongue. The record shows that my most honorable ancestors were forbidden by the aforementioned barbaric captors, creatures, and monsters, aka the black Caucasians, They were forbidden to do what? To practice their ancestral customs, traditions, cosmology, and spiritual science, etc. And above all, they were even forbidden to speak and communicate with each other in their own ancestral language and mother tongue. And those that were caught in violation were severely punished. And why? Why would they, and why did they, the black Caucasians, punished our most honorable ancestors, and with such cruelty, and with such barbarity and inhumanity, just for speaking to each other in their own language and mother tongue? And the answer to that question is this: it was then and still is because Satan and his host of devils, yes, the black Caucasians, know the art and science and the mystical powers of language and the use of words. They know it. And they also know that it is only through the knowledge and the use of our own language that they could and that they will be permanently defeated, and our people will be set free. I remember reading somewhere that part of the punishment meted out to our most honorable ancestors when they were caught communicating in their ancestral language and calling upon their ancestral source, the ancestral gods or rituals, etc., was to have their tongue cut out of their heads. And then they, the black Caucasoid, the black Caucasians, would watch with glee as my most honorable ancestors suffered, bled, and died, and organizing death. And to drive the fear, it was also to drive the fear of the black Caucasians themselves and the fear of their Christian God and Savior Jesus Christ into our most honorable ancestors, and to teach their fellow black Caucasians a lesson in their inherent cruelty and barbarity, which we see are manifesting even to this day. Consequently, my most honorable ancestors were unable to pass on their language, their knowledge, and their secrets, both verbally and traditionally, to yours truly. But thanks be to my source, and as mentioned before, they are embedded in the I DNA and in the I, or if you prefer in my subconscious mind, and they are being activated. My genetic memory is being activated little by little and day by day. You think me done? I come, just I come. As evidence of all that I have said so far, hence, here is a quote from an article on a website called Karibani at learn.karibani.com, subtitled Linguistic Oppression and Cultural Suppression, and I quote: enslaved Africans endured unspeakable hardships, including forced labor, physical abuse, and the breaking of familial bonds. In this context, preserving one's native language became a perilous endeavor. Many enslaved individuals were subjected to linguistic oppression, with slave masters forbidding the use of their native tongues and enforcing the use of European languages, primarily English, Spanish, Portuguese, and French. The suppression of home languages was not merely a means of control. It was a tool to erase cultural connections and sever ties to Africa. Enslaved Africans often found themselves surrounded by people from different regions and language groups, making it challenging to maintain linguistic continuity. Additionally, the oral traditions that had sustained these languages for generations were disrupted, further hastening their decline, unquote. Now, having heard that, there are still those among us, my own people, that have the nerve to be telling I, the mystic philosopher, that these despicable humankind creatures and monsters are deserving of being called white, and are still insisting on calling these black Caucasians white. Some of you, my own people, well, again, I think I get it why in some places. Fact number 5, that I ask that you please bear in mind. I was not taught their language, and I do not know their language. I was only taught a bastardized version of their language. And for your information, bastardized meaning a version of the language that is lower in quality, standard, value, and in effectiveness than the original language, or than the original form. And for the record, let me once again publicly admit and declare that I do not speak, and nor can I speak their language well. You can hear how I'm buck shuffling with it. And nor can I mimic, or nor am I trying to mimic the black Caucasians either. This should be self-evident, as you may notice me from time to time just trying to pronounce and articulate some of their words and phrases, but I want to get into that any more than that right now. And thus, in my sincere attempt at learning the language, or learning as much as I think I can learn about the language and decoding some of the secrets in their language, I have to frequently use their dictionaries coupled with my inherent intelligence and my activated common sense. And also, in order to use their language to communicate and express some of my innermost thoughts, and while trying to be as precise and concise as possible, I have to frequently refer to the language dictionaries for the meanings and definitions and even the etymology of almost its every word. I always find it quite intriguing and sometimes quite amusing when oftentimes I heard, watched, and listened to some of you, my own people, talking, acting, and carrying on as if this is your language, as if this is our language, as if you were really taught our oppressor's language, and as if you are really being taught our oppressor's language, and as if you really know our oppressor's language. And especially some of you that have been to and trained at some of our oppressors' so-called distinguished schools and tertiary institutions. Consequently, you were and are trained to effectively mimic our oppressors' accent and are now placed in positions of power and authority by the oppressors in the oppressive system. It always amused me. From my perspective, if you think that our oppressors have taught you their original language, an official language, or that they taught you, or that they taught that they, the oppressor, thought that it would be in the oppressor's interest to teach you their subjects, their inferiors and slaves, their original and official British/English language, then not only do you not know the true meaning, definition, and purpose of a language, but you are suffering from the curse and deception of what? The black spell. No wonder some of you, who as a result of the aforementioned training and education that you have received, you are the same people that are insisting and calling yourselves black and proclaiming that you are black and that you are proud. Now, with that said, let's look at the meaning and definition of the word synonym once again. A synonym is a word, a phrase that means exactly or nearly the same as another word or phrase in the same language. For example, I used before, shut is a synonym of close. For your information, And to the best of my current knowledge, even though it is used as such by many people, possibly by yourself, but the fact is that the English word black is not synonymous to or with the English word melanin. They don't have the similar meaning and definition, and nor do they hold the same part of speech. For example, the English word black is an adjective and the English word melanin is a noun. And according to grammatical rules, and to the best of my understanding, grammatical rules of the English language, yes, and to the best of my knowledge, they each function they each function differently. They have different function. A noun by meaning and definition is a word that refers to a thing, a person, a place, a quality, an idea, or an action. On the other hand, an adjective by meaning and definition is a word that modifies a noun or a pronoun and provides more information about it. The Winston Canadian Dictionary for Schools renders the meaning and definition of an adjective as, and I quote, a part of speech expressing quality or condition, and two, a word used to limit or define a noun or a pronoun. Example he gives here: a bad law, a wise man, a green leaf, unquote. Now, what is bad? Who is wise? And what is green in that example I gave before? Now, a man, one, a black man, for your information, a man, number one, a man, number two, a black man, and number three, a black-skinned man are not the same. They are not the same. A man is neutral. All that is known about him is that he is a male. A black man is an evil man down to his core. A black-skinned man is a melanated man. Melanated meaning he is highly pigmented. His skin contains melanin in high concentrations. I personally prefer melaninated man or melanated woman, and not only do I prefer the term melanated man or melanated woman as opposed to a black-skinned man or a black-skinned woman, but I also think and know that it is far more appropriate. And here's why. The English word black also means, check it for yourself, ugly, disgraceful, and impure, etc. Therefore, by saying black skin, this is how they mess us up. By saying black skin, you are also saying ugly skin. No wonder you have so much bleaching, but I know I have this long enough and I want to take up more time. You are actually saying ugly skin. By saying black skin, you're actually saying disgraceful skin and impure skin, etc., etc. Think about it, my dear beloved people. Remember, this language was and is designed to have us accepting their curses and to have us cursing and putting down ourselves. And it is knowledge of these facts that will help us, or will help set ourselves free. The English word black, an adjective, is used also as a color to describe the noun or the thing called melanin. Melanin is defined as, and again I quote, a dark brown to black pigment occurring in the hair, skin, and iris of the eye in people and animals. It is responsible for tanning of skin exposed to sunlight, unquote. Here is another definition for melanin from the Cleveland Clinic at my.clevelandclinic.org/health, and I quote, melanin is a substance in your body that produces hair, eye, and skin pigmentation. The more melanin you produce, the darker your eyes, hair, and skin will be. The amount of melanin in your body depends on a few different factors, including genetics and how much sun exposure your ancestral population had. Unquote. You say, and I quote you, you say black, melas, mix of color, coloreds are synonyms. For your information, the word black is English, and the word melas, according to the online etymology dictionary at etymolonline.com, is Greek. Melas is Greek, or of a Proto-Indo-European, PIE. I also ask, I'm also not aware of the phrase or the term you use, mix of color, to mean black, or that it is synonymous or that it is a synonym for the word black. The closest that I came across is the phrase or the term mixed colors. And of the 85 synonyms, or if you prefer the 85 other terms for mixed colors, or the 85 words and phrases with similar meaning that I found, none meant black. I could not find one that meant black. And the same is true for the word coloreds. The word colored and the word black are not synonyms, as you have contended. Colored and colored. Let's talk about colored. And what does the word colored mean? And who is considered a colored person? Well, according to Britannica, and I quote, colored is a person of mixed European, and they have in bracket or in parentheses the word white, and African, which they also have in parentheses the word black, or Asian ancestry, as officially defined by the South African apartheid government from 1950 to 1991, unquote. And according to the New Lexicon Webster's Dictionary of English, of the English language, colored is defined as, again I quote, having color, belonging to some race other than white, given deliberate, and continue, given deliberate bias, colored remarks, colored South Africa, or pertaining to the Cape Colored. Now, here is another quote from Wikipedia on the word coloreds. And I quote, coloreds, African, in bracket, in parentheses, African, are multicultural race in South Africa, Namibia, and to a smaller extent Zimbabwe and Zambia. Their ancestry descends from the interracial mixing that occurred between Europeans, Africans, and Asians, unquote. Now, from these quotes, from these 2 or 3 reputable sites, 2 reputable sites and 1 dictionary, and 1 hardcover dictionary, among others that I have visited and referenced in preparation for this, my response, I am yet to see one that said, or one that suggests that the word coloreds mean or is defined as black, or that the word coloreds is synonymous with the word black. However, what I have found is that the term colored meaning black, and thus colored is synonymous with black, is a derogatory term that is derived from a racist ideology and of apartheid origin and perspective, according to the racist apartheid masterminds, also known as the Black Caucasians, that strategically and racially deceive the world by calling and naming themselves white. White meaning they are the opposite of black. They are the opposite of anything or anyone black, meaning they are pure and are white as snow. White meaning they are the light of the world. White, they are sinless, meaning they are sinless, they are unblemished. White meaning they are superior to all else. White meaning they are the epitome of humanity and all that is human, or all that and all that a human can be, etc. Therefore, for any of them to cohabit with any other race that is not their kind, others that are not so-called white people equal pure people, is to pollute their so-called pure blood. And thus anyone that is the product of a mixed race relationship or an interrelationship cohabitation is inferior and thus labeled black, meaning contaminated and impure. For example, if you mix two colors together, example, the color black and the color white, the evidence will show that the resultant is neither black or white, but it is a what? The result is a mixture, which is called or known as gray. And thus, if the principle of basic logic were to remain consistent, then to call a child that is the resultant of an interracial union, example, a so-called white and a so-called black, to call a child a black child is incorrect, or at the very least misleading. He or she should either be called a gray child, a black and white child, or maybe a colored child, or simply an interracial child. Finally, with regards to your comments about the countries and islands you call black land, and I quote, now that you know who they are, circle each country and islands called black lands, unquote. Here again, and from my perspective, we can clearly see evidence of how our collective ignorance of this, the black Caucasians, trichology language, aka the British or the English language, can both confuse and deceive us. And as such, have us never saying what we truly intend to say, or what is truly in our minds, and consequently, we seldom end up doing or manifesting what we truly intend to do. For your information and to the best of my knowledge, it is not the colors, black or white, that are bad or good, but it is the things and the people that these colors represent and define that are either bad or good. These colors and colors in general are neutral. To the best of my current knowledge, the term black land is a compound word, meaning it is made up of two words. The word black, which is an adjective as mentioned before, and the word land, which is a noun. And all that this means, or that all that this is saying, is that the land, also known as the soil, is black. Unfortunately, some people believe that if the land, aka the soil, is black, and their skin complexion is described as black, then that means that the black land, aka the black soil, belongs to them. From my perspective, black land does not mean that it belongs only to the people that are called, labeled, and listed black. And you don't know my perspective on that. But I will have much more to say on this point at another time. So in the interest of time, which I way past, and I thank you again for listening thus far, if you are still listening. In the interest of time, this will be the end of this part 26, so please stay tuned. There's much more thought-provoking truths, insights, and perspectives, etc. to come. So please join me for the continuation in part 27. There I will pick up right where I'm leaving off right here. Again, I say thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and your feedback, your feed forward, your rebuttal, your enlightenment, your questions and comments are welcome and encouraged. And if you think or believe that these my presentations are worth sharing, please share. Please discuss it. Please get some more people involved. Please discuss it. I'm open for learning. Please discuss it with your friends and your family. In the meantime and between time, here's willing that in your becoming, that you be more and more and much, much more, and definitely not less. For I am the mystic philosopher. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. I and I say.